I'm Ward,
I'm Ice Cream Soda.
and it's good to be back with you. We've been away for, I guess, a couple weeks.
Couple weeks.
We,
We had technical difficulties, I think, on the last one, so we cut it out.
yeah, well, we actually got a welcome break. We, traveled to a little bit warmer spot, but it turned out to
definitely
be.
warmer.
We had a couple weeks of sunshine and got to be outside, and we were just talking about some of the interesting things that we saw. One of which was a an oak tree, which I believe the area said it was the oldest tree in the United States east of the Mississippi. That's pretty good categorization or qualification. But it's the girth of its trunk is like I guess is like 30 feet across. That's like the diameter right through the tree trunk.
Yeah.
It was gigantic, and it really is pretty spectacular. Well, Soda got a couple of nice pictures of it that we have. So anyway, it was kind of an interesting thing, and that kind of we were chatting about having seen so much of we saw quite a bit of nature on this time.
A lot of alligators down there, down in the south. Not very fond of them.
Well, we actually watched the and not atypically, unfortunately, the male of the species.
Oh gosh,
this giant guy, and he was
hot the truck.
He was. You say, well, how do you know that? How could anyone tell if an alligator is? He came out of the middle of the pond. He went to the bank, and I mean, he was crazy. He was shaking bushes. You'd watch him move underneath the bank along the periphery of the pond, and let's just say you could tell when he caught up to
the other alligator.
What he was looking for.
Yes,
but it was a pretty
and underwater they went.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting sight. But it was pretty.
They're not in a cage. They're not in a
No,
I
was just going to say the place where we were staying. We're on a wooden bridge where you're only 6 or 7 feet above them, looking down at them.
Right, they're in them.
And but at the we ran into somebody because the area we were staying, there's no fence around the pond completely, and this big guy. Apparently, earlier, just before we got there, someone said that they were listening, and they heard this sound. They said it sounded like somebody was dragging a log across a road, the driveway, and then you had and then this thing drops and a huge splash into the pond. Yeah, it was him.
So he's crossing the street that we're walking up and down all the time,
and at night.
Yeah.
So that didn't
bode well.
That didn't bode well for the subsequent walks. But I have to admit, watching the shrubs and trees shake as he moved around the periphery of that pond
that other alligator
was really interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, and the turtle.
And then the bird that sat right on the railing and didn't move him.
I actually, I wouldn't embarrass myself by trying to do the imitation of this thing. I got to within like 2.5 or 3 feet of this bird who's preening. His crown is up, his wings are spread, his tail's out, and I mean he's like
showing off.
He's doing a boogaloo. I mean, I don't know what it was. It was hysterical.
Yeah.
I mean, and I didn't see any other birds in the area, so maybe it was us he was talking.
Maybe I don't know.
I don't know. But it was pretty funny. It was pretty funny.
It was impressive.
And oh gosh, I mean that was we did get to we actually did get to visit a couple places, and even in description it might tell people where it was, but the other side of that was we saw something real impressive when we went to visit our friends who had moved, and they took us for the tour. Where that whole new the whole new waterfront area.
Yeah.
down there was along the southern city, this port area, and there's a gentleman who was I guess was in a hotel business, but he's still a young man. He's in his 50s, and he is going down a waterfront area in the city, and he is revitalizing and turning all these old factories, a power plant, all manner of old industrial buildings. He's turning them into to luxury hotels, but doing it by preserving the inside of these things. And you've got cranes and all kinds of industrial equipment and stuff that he's been able to preserve and keep it as part of as part of what you're looking at. And in addition to that, he himself is a collector of all manner of things, most notably quartz and gemstones, and
Artifacts.
there's virtually hundreds, if not thousands, of these things on display as you continue to traverse from building to building to building.
It's a JW Marriott, the hotel.
One of them was, yeah.
Well, the whole thing was. Yeah. But and every one of them looked different. Like,
well, I told him you were on your phone.
Yeah, I was trying to respond to something.
But yeah, they maintain the character of each of the factories.
But the most impressive thing was the skeleton of the dinosaur that had been coated in, I don't know what.
Oh, well, what they did, they had a full size of a brontosaurus skeleton. What this person had done is, I guess,
from the ceiling.
Yeah, the process by which they did it, I think he went to, I guess there's a dinosaur research center in Montana, and they went and they had found some bones.
Right.
And in finding those, it kind of gave them an idea of scale of what they had.
Right.
And they went to these, I don't know whether they're, I guess you'd call them paleontologists or whomever the experts are. And they worked with them and doing the calculations based on the vertebrae or whatever it was that they uncovered. They hand carved out of, some material, a complete skeleton, piece by piece, and then they kind of coated it. I guess we had like that silver
kind of a
metallic coating, and they assembled it, and it's hanging from the ceiling of one of these buildings. I mean, I got to admit, it was pretty.
But then they highlighted the whole thing with colored lights, so it was just amazing. I don't know that I've seen anything quite like it.
No, so that was really the whole point. I mean, on the one hand, we saw nature in the raw, if you will, and then on the other, you see some of the things that
ancient
that people can do. And we were, well, when was that the thing? Was that one of the things that kind of let us off? No, it was all the artificial intelligence and stuff. We kind of had our Tower of Babel discussions and stuff like that.
Yeah. All the AI stuff.
And oh yeah, because we had
of which
this is
of which in the Old Testament there actually was a town called AI.
Well, yeah, IE, and that's how AI is how it was spelled. And the word in the original language means ruins, total ruins. And so the guy who was talking about it,
Israelites against that town, and they wiped it out completely.
And that might be where it ends,
right?
As you hear people talk.
That might be with AI where we're headed.
Well, and we actually did have on several occasions, we actually we were engaged with some pretty good discussions on some of the stuff.
Yeah.
Somewhere, and these are all with people that are of our generation. And
what was the term? What was the term that she used?
It was clinically significant.
Yes.
Okay, these were clinically significant. She's a psychologist, and we were talking about clinically significant mindsets and statements and things like that. And so we had this group that are all same or a little bit older, and we start talking about this stuff. And I have to say, because at one point I made the comment to one person, I said, I really cannot believe how utterly ill-informed you are.
Yeah.
And even as those words are coming out of my mouth, I know that I am too, in many areas, equally poorly educated or informed or knowledgeable. And but to hear someone that's been on a planet and who is and who's but is extraordinarily highly educated and fancies themselves a scientist.
Yes.
And they are. I mean, in the sense that it's a, chemical engineering or a doctorate. So that's not a person who doesn't understand. And yet, when we were talking about in a small group of us talking about the fact that with the technology that exists, every conversation can be listened to, everything is listened to, everything is stored, and this person just said there is simply no way that that could happen. And at one point, when we talked about the state of the world, and I talked about where's this going to end, and the response, and at least in that one instance, was, well, I mean, the socialism thing, maybe maybe China's
great idea.
it's not going to be bad. People always adjust, so maybe it's going to be like China,
Yeah. Sure. That's what we want.
And this is and the reason I dwell on that is because we were talking earlier about
Oh no, but
what people consider important.
Yeah, but also remember about the whales.
Oh no! Let me. Okay, let me. Yeah, that's actually that's pretty funny. We were talking, and talking about
the whole listening thing.
What the listening and the electronics and technology and impacts that some of the negative impacts that people don't talk about. And and I asked this person, and some of you may have heard about it. Back a few months ago, there were a bunch, maybe 12 or 13, maybe more, whales that were washing up on the New Jersey shore, and the dead. And but after they were washing up, and
It's a wind turbine.
and saying, well, what's that? And so, well, if you think about the wind turbines and the harmonics and the things that and these guys run on their sonar, those kinds of signals in the water, that can have a profound effect. And at one point, one person made the comment like, "Oh, no,
that's not. You're making that up.
You're making that stuff up."
Yeah.
And the other person in the discussion says, "Whales are wireless." It was pretty funny. They They don't have strings attached to them. They're wireless signals. So they could be affected. But anyway, but for people who didn't have much to talk about, we're doing okay.
Yeah, I know.
But the thing that struck us is folks who talk that way, and yet in this group, these are people that, let me just say, they don't have any worries economically.
Yes.
And yet, okay,
they're very elitist.
And yet it's about how much more can you accumulate, how much can you enjoy yourself, and you look at what the focus of their life is. I mean, okay, they get to make their own choice. That's what freedom is, and I accept that. But you find yourself saying, man, is it really that shallow? And I guess the answer to that is yes. I mean,
and they're always looking for ways to generate more money.
Well, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Well, it's not that money in and of itself isn't a bad thing, as we were talking about earlier. It's the love of money, and you can see people who are consumed by just trying to garner more, just for the sake of garnering more, because that's a good thing. I think that was one of the quotes that someone said. It's good to have these other things. I'm sure it is, but how many how much do you need?
Yeah.
Anyway, but that's another
that's a whole other network.
Yeah, but it does. And why even talk about all that stuff? because we realized how much we appreciate everything from those crocodiles to the jellyfish that we
Oh,
run
that
into,
dead
to the
to
to the
die.
oak tree. I mean, to simple stuff, to the creation,
Yes.
to appreciate what God
God
has
is
created
right.
and how perfect it is, and how and its detail and all of that, and and that's and how much more noble and pursuits there are than just trying to feather your nest.
Right.
Even if people doing it were trying to, even if they're and no one ever really talked about that in terms of I'm trying to get more so I can give
Give
more
it
away
to
and do this.
you
None
know,
of
do
that.
things to help other people.
This wasn't about that. It was
Although one might be focused that
well,
way a little bit.
one was on that on the education initiative.
Yeah.
But but everyone else was kind of like the next trip, the next cruise, the next this, the next that,
Yeah.
and we find ourselves being pretty silent when those conversations, because it's just not. It just doesn't.
Shouldn't be your
I mean,
focus.
we get a few days and do it. Say, gee, that was fun. I sure couldn't live like that.
No, right.
Right.
Not on a steady diet.
So we don't like. We're very relieved. We not that we ever had any doubts, but we don't belong with the upper crust, and we're pretty pleased about that. Yeah. In fact, sometimes we don't belong with the lower crust. Anyway, but so there's I'm not sure what's been on everybody else's mind. I mean, it's I guess now we're I guess the political season officially kicks off now, and but there's a few big things that are going on. I guess the biggest thing.
I'm curious to see how Memorial Weekend's going to go. Like, what are there going to be protests, or are people going to celebrate people that have died for our country and for our beliefs and freedom, or are we just going to act like it didn't happen?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of people that are just going to ignore it or trash it. I mean, and this is, I mean, if you go all the way back to just the very beginning of
I mean, they're trying to kill our history, so
well, yeah, exactly, exactly, and so I don't know what to expect, and it's kind of like those messages we've been listening to, and there are a few people, some in the clergy, and some political, and some in the media that say, you got to have some guts.
yeah,
You got to have courage. You
gotta
got to
stand
not
up for what you
compromise. You
believe.
got to stand up. And I mean, and what does and we find ourselves asking ourselves, okay, what does that really mean? It means when you're having a conversation with somebody and they start trashing it, you disagree with them. You
Yeah,
say this
and
is
don't be
what this
afraid
is,
to.
and don't be afraid to, regardless of and in our case, it should be a no-brainer and easy, because what's it going to cost us? Couple of older people that someone says they're nuts. I don't like them anyway. I mean, the person who has lost their job, the person who has lost
Who's
opportunities,
been locked up?
who's been locked up, because
They
those people
disagree with.
those people are extraordinary, and
Yeah,
that's the kind of courage it's
it's
gonna
gonna
need to
take.
take to to have a chance of making a difference in what's going on,
Right.
and not backing down. And
I mean, little by little, they keep chipping away at taking our freedoms.
well, one of the
Already
things
attacked freedom of speech,
I was reading
guns.
an article over the past day or two, and if anybody out there can correct me or fill in the blanks, it would be really much appreciated. But there, but it was this discussion started out as somebody kind of unraveling the thread on communications years ago that Hunter Biden was having with people about this whole pay to play and the whole peddling influence and so forth. But in pursuing trying to get their hands on documents and emails that exist, the government was arguing, and this is what became known, and this is pretty scary. that they were considering things as thoughts that people had or opinions that they had as, and I can't think of what they called it, something infrastructure. Essentially, they were claiming that your thoughts are part of, being online and stuff, are part of an infrastructure system. And infrastructure, of course, what the government should control. It literally was. We should be able to control the thoughts and opinions that people have because that's infrastructure, and that creates these. I mean, it was right out. It's George Orwell to a T. And I don't know if, and anybody can fill in the blanks on that, but it was basically truly an implementation of the thought police, and why the government should be allowed to. I am gonna see if I can find any of that stuff. Two, 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 two. Unfortunately, I'm not having a lot of
Success.
success. I guess I'm yeah, this is do. I don't want to bore people. You got anything you want to talk about, huh?
Well, I mean, essentially, our government and the news media continue just to lie about everything. They don't. They cover up anything that is truth by twisting it,
Yeah.
and now I mean, there's not many sources you can go to where you're getting the truth.
Oh, I did you see
No, I didn't.
no, you would like you because you would have commented on this. Uh that Gavin Newsom, and it may just be a rumor, is considering, when Dianne Feinstein resigns, who do you think he's considering replacing her with?
I haven't got a clue.
Oprah,
Oh, brother.
because he would get to a point that, I mean, I don't know if that's just somebody goofing, but
Probably. I
but
don't think he'd do it.
maybe she wouldn't, but he'd be crazy enough to.
He's a sick person.
I'll tell you, yeah, I can't find that thing on the
Down on her
on that
knees, putting
speech.
about him.
But it is just it's scary. Anyway, well, I mean, on the bright side, the state of Montana has banned drag queen story hour in their schools.
Well,
It's the
hallelujah.
first state to do so.
Hallelujah. There's a step in the right direction.
I tell you, just
Missouri Supreme Court.
what's that? Oh,
But a school district can.
oh yeah! Wow, this is something it's on the that just popped up, and it says, let me read you the headline: Missouri Supreme Court is going to decide whether school districts can jail parents for absent students. Of course, we all know that it won't be the question of a kid playing hooky. It will be because parents don't want their kids reading porn
Their
in their
homeschool
biology
or
class,
change their students into a different environment.
or different, or doing the trans thing or something like that. But it did say that there were a couple of single parents who have, because their children have missed more days of school than the local school district allowed. I don't know what those numbers are. I mean, this could be a legitimate only from the standpoint if you've got somebody who is not,
This is another overreach of government control.
well, I understand. I understand that, and I mean, and you would think. Now, we think that, our natural reaction is thinking that the parent sees something in the school they don't want, but we don't know if that's true or not. For all we know, where it's a single parent, the kid, mom or dad heads off to work, and the kid, walks down the street
Skips
like they're
school.
going to school and just skips.
Yeah.
And so you don't know. Anyway, so we'll see. But now, but say, all right. I mean, parents at that stage are still responsible for getting your kids to school, and I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to see what other people think. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't think I have enough of exactly why this has come to light.
Exactly. Don't know what the motive of that story is.
It's right. Is it they're objecting to what's being taught? Is it that parents are
Well, it was saying that the state's position is basically let's see here. Oh, okay. Now there's a one of these is you're talking about a 6-year-old kid missing a bunch of things. I mean, you say to yourself, well, why? She called her out. Mom called her out for 6 of the 16 things as is excused. But again, when you consider the hours and so forth, I don't know. You just don't know enough. I mean, they're just telling you what they want to tell you. That's a kid. That's a kindergartner in first grade, and so missing a couple days in November and December as a kindergartner. Is that going to destroy their
I'm not
education?
sure that's
I
gonna
don't.
ruin them for life,
I
but
don't think so. Again, it just seems like it's something where the legal system thinks that maybe they're just trying to drive a wedge. If they can win something here and dictate
oh,
punishment for parents,
they're
then
yeah,
they're on their way.
cracking the door
They're cracking the
for
door
more control over
over other things
over other things,
that are the bigger issues in their mind, but
reaching
they're
into the family life.
but the ones they've had no success with thus far, or getting strong opposition from parents. So, I am, but again, it's at the end of the day, it's still the government sticking their nose into your life in a place where it doesn't belong.
Overreach.
And if you say, oh no, it's for the good of if you look at the test results of kids, I think, didn't we hear recently that virtually almost 100% in certain areas, at least 80, almost 100% of all high school graduates cannot read at grade level when they get out of school.
Well,
I mean, nobody can read. We had that. I think we already talked about it on an earlier show when we spoke about they had the discussion of the young man who had gotten his job and he had asked the guy who was his employer because the kid was really needed the money. And so this guy gave him a job. And the kid asked, and this kid's like 16, 17 years old. He's like a high school junior, sophomore, junior. And he asked if he could get a paycheck earlier, that before the end of the week, because he really needed the money. And so the guy said, sure. And so he wrote him a check, and he said, I'll take you to the bank so you can cash it. And he takes the kid to the bank, and the kid goes in the bank, and he's missing, he's gone for 10 or 15 minutes. He comes back out. Yeah, you heard this. And he said, they wouldn't cash it. I said, what do you mean they wouldn't cash it? Well, they asked me to sign the check, and he printed his name. Now here's a 16-year-old. He cannot write in cursive. He can't write a signature, and so the bank said, "Sorry, can't do it." And I think that was told to us in conjunction with somebody who asked someone to read was someone was doing some cooking, and they asked a friend to read a young lady to read a recipe, And the girl looked at it and said, I can't read it. You can't read it. Well, it's in cursive. I don't know how to read cursive. That is high school students
Yeah, that's
in our country
that's
today.
kind of
And so you say to yourself, how bad is that going to be? Anyway, we're going to take a short break, and we'll come back and we'll discuss some more things. Okay, we'll see you in about 5 to 10 minutes.
yeah.
Okay, thanks everybody. We'll be back. Hi, everybody. Welcome back.
We're back.
And
A few hot topics that
yeah, well, why don't you go ahead and open up? You had a couple that were you were asking about
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives
How do you
Matter.
go bankrupt?
How did they go bankrupt? And I mean, well, they're.
Who's running that place?
But you're asking me? I don't know who's running that place.
Well,
Well, the people who have been running it, you find out when they look into where the money is going, and they've raised a ton, obviously. They've purchased some wonderful homes for themselves. They're still, even though
okay,
they're fine.
first, but wait, I got a question. Are there any white people running this organization? Is it all blacks?
I have absolutely no idea. I don't know. I would assume not. But that's not to say there isn't somebody involved. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Not anybody that I've seen publicized as the person. And and now you've got a lot of people because of this, where they has this headline. Even black activists are distancing themselves from it because of the financial collapse. I mean, because at the end of the day, you're
Well,
paying exorbitant salaries to people. I heard there was
well, how can you play the people that are acting out for you and trying to get support for Black Lives Matter? Weren't they getting sued? Some of those guys that were acting.
Oh, you mean activists?
Yeah,
I don't know.
activists.
You're talking about. I'm sorry. You must be talking about peaceful protesters.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't. I suppose yes, because they fund those things. So yeah, there are professional people who would have protested with them, and there are indeed, and that's a mixed bag of people. That's not all black people.
No, that the protesters, I get that's not.
But but they finance them because they can move them from place to place. I mean, where they want to create a
Is this under a charity foundation?
Yeah, it was. I'm sure it was under some kind of a what's that?
Yeah,
429, whatever that designates
Whatever.
as a tax deductible
right.
gift, and it's basically a fraud. They're buying. It's listed as a charity, and in fact, they've been spending the money on themselves, salaries, houses, vacations, and that's all coming to light now. And so even people, their donations have gone in the tank.
Well, I was going to say, when they find out it's not going to the people that it was supposed to be for.
Well, it never was, but that's beside the point. But people, as we were discussing earlier, anybody who writes a check to somebody who is asking for money because they're going to do some good with it, so you can feel better about giving money to a noble cause, you may as well just set it on fire.
Right.
For all the good that it's going to do. It's not going to go anywhere near where people say it's going to go. And in fact, as we discussed, if you know somebody who needs help, write them a check.
Or give them.
Or give them something,
Right,
so
directly.
that it goes directly to people that need it and need it most and would appreciate it, because it's not going to get there. And again, I mean, we're just back to the money thing, as we were talking earlier. As the eschatological clock, good word, winds down. The doomsday clock winds down.
Yeah.
Men are going to be more and more lovers of money and possessing it, and so you do whatever you have. You do whatever you have to do to get people. And this is great. If you can create. I mean, look at how many people do these phony GoFundMes or other things, try to create things, tell elaborate stories about their health.
But this is a joke for how much attention they got. And,
oh yeah.
And money that was given, and people thought that how horribly we've treated them and this kind of thing. Well, this is doing more damage than good.
But it's interesting. It talks about the people distancing themselves from it amid their financial collapse. That phrase doesn't tell you the story.
No,
it
doesn't.
I mean, you can have a business that has been well run that falls on hard times, or COVID did something to it, and the customers go away, and they have a financial collapse. This was nothing but a hustle.
This was donation.
Oh, this was a hustle. It
was worked for this money.
No, it was. That's what I'm saying. It was a hustle. they're just scamming people. We're going to do good with it. Just give us your money and you just trust us to do all the right things. And that's why people are distancing themselves. There's not a penny that ever found its way into a poor Black community where that money went to help those people that they say they're going to help.
Right.
It's just a hustle. Just a if you can hit the right sympathetic chord, then it doesn't matter whether it's a phony a phony church or Black Lives Matter. They're all in the same bin as far as I'm concerned. They just play on people's emotions and on people's feeling that I'm a good person because I'm writing a check to help these people that are less fortunate than I am. Okay. And yet we have money being wasted, sent to all parts of the world for all nefarious
That never
purposes.
gets to those people.
Never gets to them, and we can't take, as we talk on this Memorial Day, we can't take care of our own veterans or our own homeless or our own. There's more than enough money to do all of that. It just never is going to make it to those people because the ruling class is gonna find a way to siphon it off. It's just awful, and they are. I it's just so, yeah, these guys, it's finally catching up to them. Yeah, this is a headline that I saw. Oh gosh, you got 18 years. This is one of the guys, Oath Keepers, is if you will, a patriotic, guys who are, and they were not violent. They preached absolute nonviolence. I don't think any of them went armed. And he got 18 years in prison. And this is after being held for 2 years without obviously anybody knowing what's going on.
And poorly treated American citizens.
Yeah, seditious conspiracy. I got to tell you, they don't care.
They're terrible.
Well, and nothing's going to. And the sad thing is, they're going to do it to them. And what's going to happen to them? Nothing. And people aren't going to do anything. I mean, you say to yourself, man, maybe we should go back 200 years and everybody should get their weapons and their knives and pitchforks and go burn down the castle. I mean, because they're just going to start.
That whole thing was such a setup. It makes me.
Of course, it was a setup. Of course, it was a setup.
The fact that you didn't do anything to stop it.
Well, I read a disturbing article this week, and I can't remember the name. I can remember what he did, but there was a lady who was obviously Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed, but there was a lady Boyle who was almost beaten to death on the Capitol steps, and and it was a video where she was this woman was she was being hit by the Capitol Police with the batons and even poked to really hurt her. I mean, her face was a mess. And there was this one cop, a lieutenant, who put his baton away. He thought, okay, like he's not going to hit her. He spun around, and then he punched her directly in the face 5 times. This is while she's tied up, while they zip tied her, and he's punching her in the face. And I saw an article this week. Don't know if it's true, but it was published, not necessarily through the mainstream. That this guy, they have evidence of him. He was riding with and has been a friend of the Antifa leader of the area for some years. And he gave him, in fact, on one demonstration, he gave him a ride to a convenience store after they all got done and stuff. So, I mean, the level.
And nothing's going to happen to that guy.
No. The level. And
they've got him on film beating this woman.
Doesn't matter.
But this guy goes to jail for just attending.
For 18 years,
That's ridiculous.
They tried to create him as a leader of the Oath Keepers. Okay, it's seditious conspiracy. I got to tell you, it's
nobody.
Well, you say nobody. I mean, everybody. No, everyone is swallowing this hook, line, and sinker. Who listens to mainstream?
I was about to, and I thought, no, there are people that believe this is the worst thing that has ever happened in our country.
If we had a discussion on this with he who must not be named,
Oh, gosh, no
what
way.
do you think you would have heard?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, first of all, he wouldn't even know that these kinds of trials and that people have been held for several years are even taking place.
Poorly
But he
treated,
would simply say, "Oh yeah, that was terrible, and they should do this." to those
poorly
people."
treated
Oh,
as
no.
well.
And it continues. Those beatings continue. To people who are being held in that. And so then you rightfully have to ask yourself a question, to at the risk of saying I'm not. It's a uniparty. It's no longer. Like what's his face? Kevin McCarthy. Oh yeah, I'll release all the footage.
Where is it?
Nothing, nothing. We got nothing. Everybody's still in prison. Everybody's still being
Oh, the
persecuted.
one marched around, the one with the horn, whatever.
Oh yeah, but
They released him.
yeah, but that wasn't because of any protest. He
That-
served his time and they let him out.
Well, also because they showed that footage did get shown.
Well, that was the one that was initially shown, but nothing else been shown since then.
Terrible.
Nothing else has been shown.
No.
Why not?
Why not? Right.
No, why not? They're all the same. And you know what the thing is? Everyone makes those promises. They will, and here we go into the political season again. Everybody's going to be promising again. And what do? Nothing. I mean, I mentioned that thing to you this morning, lest we think that somebody like Trump is the complete answer. There was a law signed, I think, in Florida this week on if you can detect a heartbeat, and I think that's at 6 weeks or something like that. Then you're no longer going to be able to get an abortion in Florida. But
It's
whatever the
later
heart,
than that.
well,
But whatever.
that's beside the point,
Heartbeat
please.
means life.
You're
Period.
well,
However long it is.
you go ahead. Finish the.
No, I'm just saying I'm not sure it's 6 weeks. I think
No,
that's
I'm not.
a little early.
I'm saying you never let me make the point. I didn't. I made the point. What I was going to make is that Trump referred to that as being way too harsh. So the fact is, you're either pro-life or you're not pro-life. You're either anti-abortion or you're not. I mean, I understand people right away go to rape, incest, and those things, or health of the mother. But I'm saying that um, saying something is too harsh. That's a capitulation.
Yeah.
That's and that's how it begins. Well, I can just back off a little bit because I'm so tough on these other. Not no, he's and he was donating to the
We
Clintons.
can see the tattoo heads.
And I know. They said, will there be any
Debates?
will there be any presidential debates in 2024? What do you think?
Well, certainly Biden can't debate.
No, no, not they're not,
Well,
they're not asking you.
if you
They're
can't
asking
have the
you.
one candidate for one party to be in a debate, then how can you have a debate?
So your answer is no.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I don't think they would ever put him on a stage. In fact,
He has to have a monitor in front of him.
Yeah, but they won't put him on a stage.
So how do you have a debate without
Correct.
a monitor?
The answer is no.
No.
They're not going to have a debate.
Probably not.
And I think it will show itself long before the two parties decide on the candidates. Because for instance, Robert F. Kennedy has declared he'd want to debate. They're never gonna put him on a stage against him.
No,
not a chance.
Not a chance.
Oh, and here's a little aside. I always wondered about Orth, but he himself says it was vaccine damage that damaged his voice. And I never knew that until the past week.
I don't know what vaccine.
I don't know the answer to that, but again, his coming from the liberal family that he did, who knows what the moms did would go along with anything. That was back in the 60s. He's our age, so it's trusting everybody to do the right thing. So But again, back to this, no debates. I don't think there'll be the only debates we're going to see is going to be on the Republican side. But then you say, but it's presidential debates, so I just don't think there are going to be any.
No, no,
There'll be dueling statements,
yeah,
but it won't be face to face.
no.
Joe's going to hide in the basement.
They'll find a way to hide them.
If he can, if he's
They'll come
or
up
the
with
double or his body double,
double, yeah.
will hide in the basement. I just don't think it's gonna. And
Tell
I
me.
don't think Trump ought to. I don't think Trump ought to. Or anybody.
We're headed for
All the
Mission
stuff we
Impossible. Somebody's going to wear a. Tell me.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Somebody's going to be made up to look like him, talk like him, whatever, and that's what
There's already stuff that's been published
about
that pictures of him in the same day,
yeah.
and
He doesn't
you
even look
look,
the
he doesn't
same.
even look like the same person. And I mean, these are facial close-ups, hours apart, dressed differently, and
Yeah.
it's, I mean, of course, drugs can do that to you. The stuff that I'm sure they have some pretty exotic mixtures that they give them, and for sure.
What was the term that was used? Is this senile or uh, elderly abuse?
Oh, elder abuse.
Elder abuse.
Yeah,
That his family
that they should
be
Jill,
accused.
Dr. Jill should be
Yes.
held accountable for elder abuse.
Yeah. By putting him through this.
Well, there was a clip the other day. He was speaking in Japan. Got it, and it's 45 seconds of absolute gibberish.
Nothingness.
Gibberish.
I haven't.
Phrases that don't go together, topics that don't. It's just absolute gibberish. It's
And that's our president.
well, it's embarrassing. It's just
That's
sad. I mean, it's so obvious, and yet it goes on, and nobody
I'm
does.
telling you, he's
and
Mr.
nobody
Magoo,
says
or
anything.
he's the emperor with no clothes. I mean, it's just they want you to just not even see what you're seeing.
Yeah. So it says neither one's going to have to participate, and that's and that's too bad. I mean, I think clearly the only person that benefits is Joe.
By not debating.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's the direct beneficiary of that.
Oh yeah.
Not having to have a conversation.
Not having to answer for anything that he has done.
Right. He probably can't remember most of what he
No,
has
it's
done.
true. He probably can't.
Anyway.
All right.
Oh, one of the things that way, and you know what, with that, we're gonna wrap up. But we did want to share one thing with you is that next week, when we're here, we will have our first guest, and we hope that is the first of many to come, so that there would be
You don't have
a little bit
bored
more
listening to us all the time.
a little bit more variety. And
Right.
who doesn't have more conversation when you have the opportunity to have a little bit more exchange.
Right.
So but what we would like to invite you to do is, if you know anyone that you'd like us to speak to, please suggest them to us in the comments below, and we will be glad to make contact and see if we have see if we can have a guest of your choosing on. So feel free to make those suggestions. We'd appreciate it. Okay. So, with that said, we will.
It's gotta be regular people. I don't
we're-
think we can get any celebrities.
Yeah, well, hey, who knows? You never know. You never know. What's a regular people these days?
Yeah, that's true.
What's a regular
That's
people?
true.
But we do thank you for joining us today. We're glad to be back, and we look forward to being together with you next week. So until then, we'll say goodbye, and we will see you next week.
Yeah. God bless. Veterans.
Yes, indeed. Great thought, Soda.
Okay.
See you, folks.